If Martha Stewart and Oprah had a baby, I feel like I would be the end result. We're starting YouTube. Cheers. Hey guys, I'm Michelle Marbie Davies and welcome to my YouTube channel, Love Marbie. I am so incredibly excited to be here on YouTube. I've wanted to do this for the longest time and I've been so nervous for so many different reasons. You know how sometimes you talk yourself out of doing something you really want to do. I convinced myself that I would need extra special camera equipment, training. I convinced myself that I would need to look a particular way to start. But one thing that I have learned over and over again on my journey as a creator and even in terms of entrepreneurship is you cannot wait until you feel ready to start. You sometimes have to just take the leap and go ahead. So that's what I'm doing here on YouTube. I have so much to share and I'm looking forward to us building a community here on this platform that I love and use myself so often. Over the next few months, I'm looking forward to sharing everything home, heart, and hosting. Those three things are what I love. Anything to do with your home, making your space beautiful, to do with the heart, the life lessons that we learn along the way in this human experience, and anything to do with hosting, because I love creating spaces for people to gather and to feast and to see that we're more alike than we are different. So I cannot wait to share things with you on this channel, ranging from recipes to tablescaping tips to just life in general. If you're completely new to me, the three main things to know are that I love hosting and entertaining. If Martha Stewart and Oprah had a baby, I feel like I would be the end result because I love making spaces beautiful. I love hosting, I love gathering people, but I also love having rich, deep conversations. Another thing to note is I don't take myself too seriously. I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. As much as I love deep, rich conversations, I just feel like I'm in my own comedy show and I laugh at myself so much. I'm an only child, so maybe that's part of the reason. And the final thing to note is that I feel like there's always a lesson to learn no matter where you are, no matter what phase of life you're in, no matter the scenario, there's always something you can learn and take away and apply to different areas of your life. And I love sharing that. I love that aspect of life where we get to learn from each other. We get to see that our experiences aren't that different from each other, even if the way they play out looks slightly different. The human experience, the shared feelings of life, love, grief, loss, like all the things, we kind of have that as a shared experience. So I love those three things. And if you know that about me, then we can roll together, okay? So to kick things off on the channel, I thought I would answer some questions that would allow you to get to know me better. Over on Instagram, which is Marbie's Kitchen, as in Marbies Kitchen, I asked people to drop some questions below. They didn't know it was for a YouTube video, but I just asked people to let me know what they would kind of want to know about me. So I'm gonna answer those questions in this video. And if you have any more questions, anything else you would like to learn, or any topics you'd like to see me cover in a video moving forward, please let me know down in the comments below. So I'm gonna run through the questions. The first question is, what's my star sign? I know people would normally answer and say Jesus is their star sign, but I'm a Taurus. I'm born in May. And if there are any things that you think about people who are Taurus in general, I don't know, like my leak, someone I love online, is also a Taurus, and some of the things she shares, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. But I don't subscribe to horoscopes as like a way to guide my decisions and my life. But yeah, if you're wondering, I'm a Taurus. Next question is, how many siblings do you have? I have no siblings. I am an only child. Sometimes people say they can tell, but I'm an only child and I feel like I have chosen family. I have friends that feel like siblings to me, friends that I love doing life with, and I feel like that's a privilege. When I was growing up, I did feel like everybody had something I didn't. Like when people had siblings, it just felt like, oh, like who's gonna be my person? Who's going to choose to love me in spite of whatever you go through? It does feel when you're growing up sometimes like you're missing out on something, like, oh, everybody has a sibling and I don't. But then as I got older and I understood that even siblings and the families that look perfect from the outside looking in, everybody has their own ish, I was kind of like, okay, how can I make the best of the situation? And because I love to host and gather and I really do value friendship really deeply, I feel like the friends I have now are kind of like my chosen family. Okay, someone said, not a question, just a comment to say thank you for being such an inspiration. Thank you guys so much. It's something that I look forward to doing with the platforms that I have, and even in the spaces that I'm in generally. I always want to be able to add value, and to hear someone say that in terms of me being inspiration whilst I'm trying to figure life out, I appreciate it. Somebody said, are you Nigerian or Ghanaian? I am Nigerian. I am from Nigeria. I was born in Lagos. Well, no, I wasn't born in Lagos. I was born somewhere else in Nigeria. But I grew up in Lagos for the first 10 years of my life. And it's really crazy because one of the things I realized by the time I came over here to the UK when I was 10 was that I was black. And anybody else who has had that immigrant experience will kind of understand what I mean. Because growing up in Lagos, I wasn't, like, yes, I was black, but I wasn't referred to as black. So to come to a space where there's really a lot of effort made to kind of remind you that this is your category, this is what you should identify as, this is how we're going to other you in some way. It was just a really interesting experience. And then even also being bullied for the way I spoke. By the time I came over, it wasn't cool to be African or Nigerian at that time. That kind of came a lot later on. But prior to that, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to be Jamaican. Jamaican is fake Jamaican. So everybody was Jamaican, okay, as a method of survival. But it's really crazy to see over the years how now being Nigerian, being Ghanaian, being African, like, it's cool culturally. But when I first came to the UK, that was not the case. They bullied the life out of me. And I quickly had to learn how to speak the Queen's English and code switch where necessary. But yeah. Okay, so next question is cooking your very background or have you studied something else? I didn't study anything to do with food. My course that I studied in uni was marketing and events management. And when it comes to food, I feel like the love of that from my mum and family and just the culture in Lagos growing up, where food was an essential part of gathering, that's just where the love for food comes from. In terms of learning things, I would say me and my mum used to watch Saturday Kitchen every Saturday without fail. Shout out to James Martin while it was still on the BBC in that format. We just used to watch Saturday Kitchen all the time, and I would learn some tips and tricks. And we both loved food. We both loved cooking. My mum was an amazing cook, and it wasn't in the sense where people say, my mum is an amazing cook, and then you taste the food and it's like, oh, it's a bit meaty. No, my mum was actually a phenomenal cook. And people would enjoy eating her food all the time, whether it's church, gatherings. She knew how to make food taste great. Fresh herbs, fresh seasonings, fresh ingredients, like phenomenal. And I think I kind of just developed that love of food and hosting from her. So I didn't study anything to do with food. And I feel like there's still so much more that I would love to learn. I'd love to go for cooking classes. I've seen some of these retreats in France sometimes where you go for a couple of days and you learn how to cook and it's picturesque, and it would just be my dream to go. But no, I did not study food. Another question somebody asked, what's my career background? So as I just mentioned, I studied marketing and events management, and it's so crazy to me now to be an adult and see how so many of us study things that we don't always end up practicing. And I feel like uni is so much more than the degree you specifically go to study. But that whole period was a struggle for me because I really wanted to drop out when it came to A-levels, college, and going to uni. It was kind of like something I felt like I had to do. So I was like, okay, let me just pick, my mum was really encouraging at the time because whilst I was doing A-levels, I wanted to do business studies, but the advisor at the time was like, do economics, like it's much better for you. And whilst I loved macroeconomics, by the time it came to microeconomics, my brain just couldn't handle it. I was like, oh, I'm not cut out for this. Like all my other subjects I enjoyed, sociology, philosophy, religious studies, and English language, I loved. I love anything to do with culture, the way we think, the way our minds work, the way society has evolved over time. But economics, cut me out. I know they're linked, but I wasn't interested, and I really wanted to drop out. And I love how encouraging my mum was, probably based on her life experience, where she was like, look, you're the one that's gonna have to live the life based on the choices you make. Nobody is going to do the jobs for you after you get the degree. So do something you enjoy. If you want to drop out, she was like, it's not my top choice for you, but go ahead. But then she was just encouraging me to just pick something I loved and just stick with it. So that's what I did. I chose to do a joint degree, and it was marketing and events management. And I must say, in hindsight, what I thought the degree was going to entail going in, it was a lot more technical than that. So I don't know what I thought events management was going to be as a degree, but we basically covered a lot more of the technical aspect of things. I enjoyed marketing, but again, also because it's a degree, we covered a lot more of the technical aspect of things. And it's just crazy to see how in some ways right now, like, yes, I'm not in an official marketing job, but it feeds into what I do. And in terms of events management, as I've uncovered more of what I love and I lean into that through what I do when it comes to content creation, hosting gatherings, and, you know, my in-person events, it's crazy to see how that feeds in as well. But yeah, that's kind of my background for anyone who's interested. I've done a lot of jobs on the side, like in the lead up. I used to make wedding cakes, for those who don't know. That was called Marbie Davies at the time. And then that came as a result of being made redundant from my placement year. I've never heard of anyone being made redundant during a placement year, but that happened. And then the uni told me that I could set up my own business to finish and get my qualification. So I did. And that was making wedding cakes. And outside of that, I've worked in waitressing, in events. I've worked as a personal assistant and an executive assistant previously. And it's crazy how somehow all those things feed into what I do now, even though it doesn't feel like it's a direct link. But that's my background for anyone who's wondering. Another question someone asked is, what or who inspires your content? So many amazing women inspire my content. And when I love someone, you will know, because I've basically become an evangelist for them. If you know me, you know I love my Leek Teal. I love people like Lola AKW. I love people like Neka J. So many women that I can't list off the top of my head right now, but I love people who share, one, in an open and honest way. I love people who share purposefully. How can I forget Hayat Reader? I love people who are generous with their knowledge. And it doesn't mean they don't have boundaries, but that's the way I would even describe someone like Hayat. She's so intentional about sharing, and to me it's reflective of the fact that she doesn't have a scarcity mindset that says, if I share with you, there's less for me. Yeah, I love people who create beautiful content that is aesthetically pleasing. I love to look at beautiful things in my home, in real life. Sometimes I'll go out for a walk or go to a museum or a gallery so I can see beautiful things. So any creator online that shares beautifully made content, I love that. I also love the idea that I get to help other people see that we are more alike than we are different. I was sharing about this on my close friends' stories the other day, where sometimes it takes me a while to share purchases online, and there's a lot to unpack there, but I feel like sometimes online you can be in this space where all the content you see is kind of targeted towards making you purchase more. It's like, okay, buy this, buy that. And sometimes you don't realize it, but you subconsciously have this idea that the more I buy, the happier I'll be. And especially as someone who likes to declutter and clean often to make sure I'm not hoarding, I'm really intentional about making sure that the content I put out is not solely focused on things you need to buy and purchase. And even if I am recommending something, I'm always encouraging you to kind of think about whether you need it, and also things that will last you a long time. Trust me, I love people who share recommendations, especially even when it comes to clothes, because I am not a go out and try things on in store person. I want to see how it looks on someone else. I want someone to recommend it. And I feel like, okay, we have a similar style, similar body shape. Cool, I can buy that, right? So this is not me saying I don't want to be influenced, so I'm not influenced. I am, and I enjoy making purchases that way. But I'm really conscious of overconsumption and encouraging people to do the same. So what inspires my content is making sure that I'm adding value to people. I'm helping people see that we're more alike than we are different. And it's not focused on, you need to do this to become worthy. You need to get this and then you'll be happy. It's not focused on trying to be this cool girl who's here and it's like, buy more, buy this, buy that, because you can have all the things and still just be low and sad and depressed. And I feel like I want to make sure I'm pouring into people in a way that helps them when it comes to their emotions, their mindset, their well-being. Obviously, I don't have control over how people receive my content, because someone from the outside looking in might be like, oh, but you have this and da, da, da. I can't control that. But for the most part, I do want to make sure that I'm helping people to see that this human experience, we're so similar in our journey. And even if the experiences have different expressions, and ways that they manifest, we're more alike than we are different. So that's what inspires my content. Okay. Somebody else asked, do I randomly invite my friends over to host them for no occasion? How do I make all these friends? Yes, I do invite my friends randomly. Sometimes, yes, I will capture the content even whilst I'm hosting for no reason. And I remember someone online saying to me, like, I love that you just invite people for no reason and not just for content. And it's like, this is what I do. So yes, sometimes I will capture that and share it. But I also sometimes just invite people and say, I'm making pasta, I'm not gonna finish it, come round. Sometimes I'll even sense the feeling that, okay, everybody I'm talking to feels like they're kind of in a low place. Let me create space for us to gather, because it's so easy to sink into that space of feeling isolated. And yeah, sometimes I just want people around. I feel like my dream life is a cross between Monica from Friends and Joan from Girlfriends, minus the chaos and some of the toxic traits. But I love that. And I love creating space for people together. In terms of how I made all my friends, I think I know loads of people, but I don't have many friends. And I've known my friends that I really value and cherish for a long time. Most of the people that are in my life have been in my life for over 10 years, some 7 years. One of my friends is more recent. It's probably been about a year and a half, but I love keeping friends on a long-term basis. And I love allowing room for there to be kind of a change in dynamic sometimes. Some seasons we're very close, some seasons we're not. But I wouldn't say I make many new friends. I feel like the friends I have in my life, I've had them for a very long time. And I'm really grateful for that gift. Because as I've gotten older, I've noticed not everyone has that. And I know sometimes we talk about this shift that happens when you get to a certain age and you kind of lose a bunch of your friends. I don't think I've had that per se. I think there's definitely been dynamic shifts sometimes. But for the most part, most of my friends have been in my life for a very long time, and I know that's a gift, and I'm incredibly grateful. Someone asked, what do you do for a living? Because it seems like you spend a lot of time in your home. I found this question so funny when I saw it, because it's my dream. It is my dream to spend a lot of time in my home. Like, to only need to leave my home when I would like to, that's a privilege, and I don't take that for granted. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in my home. Even when I used to make wedding cakes, I guess technically I spent a lot of time in my home baking. But this is my dream. I create content. I partner with brands. So I'm a content creator, and it feels so bizarre to say that, but that's what I do officially now. I host in-person events where people get together. It's called Tables and Tales. And then I also sometimes, when I have capacity, take on small businesses to help with marketing and branding, and I offer consultancy for that. Okay, so the next question, which fits in quite nicely, is what's the sole purpose of Tables and Tales, and how do you do it? So Tables and Tales is an in-person event that I host typically once a year, and it's usually in the winter, but I just had one this July that was impromptu because Hayat Reader was going to be in town. But Tables and Tales is like a large dinner party for about 80 women. Typically we have 80 women in attendance. And it didn't start out as an event for just women, but over time, the attendance started to reflect my audience demographic online, which is something like 92% women. And I absolutely love it. It's like an extension of what I do online with Marbie's Kitchen. We gather and we are fed on an emotional level as well as a physical level. So I wanted to create a space where people could gather and there's attention to detail from the florals, the stationery, the scent of the room, the layout, the decor, feeling like you're going somewhere super special. You get to dress up and you get to sit with other like-minded women, women who want connection, women who want to be fed on an emotional level. And we have a conversation with each course that we're served. So with each event, there is a theme. The first one was themed Make Room, and that was kind of to do with spring cleaning internally. So the same way sometimes in your physical space, you have to let go of the old in order to make room for the new. I wanted to explore that in conversation. So we spoke about making room when it comes to your finances, making room when it comes to your emotions, your emotional wellness, making room in terms of business and innovation. But that whole idea that sometimes you have to let go of what isn't serving you to make room for what's ahead. And that was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. That was about 55 of us in attendance for the first one. I made the food, which was crazy, but it tasted really good and everyone had a good time. And then the next one was post-pandemic. So the first one was 2019, the next one was 2022. And that one was themed Homecoming, the gift of self-discovery. And that was also to launch my journals, which were the first product I ever launched. I was so nervous because it was my first time launching a product that I would say to people, I've designed, and it was the journal, the gift of self-discovery, which I think is the gift that keeps on giving. It's a guided journal. There's about 100 questions broken into 4 categories. So personality, self-improvement, reflection, and just essentially providing people with something that would help them get to know themselves better. And during the actual event, Tables and Tales, we got to discuss that and all the ways that self-discovery helps when it comes to every single other area of our lives. Then the next event, I also did the cooking for that one. And then eventually I realized, okay, this is not working out. So for the next event in 2023, that was called Bloom. And this was the first time we moved it to a really lovely location. This was the Hyatt Regency, the Churchill. And it was the first time doing it somewhere where it wasn't dry hire, where I wouldn't need to come in with my own tables and my own chairs and all the moving parts. And I absolutely loved it. It was called Bloom, and it looked at all the ways that we can give ourselves permission to bloom, to fully come into our own, to evolve, and all the ways that that's a gift to everyone else around us. And I loved that event. I loved Dior Bediako and Tiwa Ogunlesi. They shared so beautifully, and it was one of my favorite events to date. And then the most recent Tables and Tales was with Hayat Rida, where she said, I'm coming to London. And I was like, girl, you want to do an event? And she agreed, and we themed it Daring Greatly, because I felt like it was a perfect reflection of what she does on her journey, continuing to dare greatly, not having all the pieces of the puzzle figured out, but moving forward anyway. And I absolutely loved having her. And I love having all these events where there are themes and we get to discuss things that we all have some sort of link to in some way, no matter where we are on our journey. But we also get to have a really good time, good food, good music playing in the background. This time we had a pianist. Like, I just really love creating spaces where people feel deeply catered to, well thought of, and you just have a good time all around. Like, all of the senses are really important to me. And I can share more about that when it comes to event planning and event management. But thinking about how people will experience your event with all their 5 senses, what they see, what they smell, what they taste, what they hear. You know, was that 5 senses? See, smell, taste, hear, feel. You know, people give you a hug at the event. But yeah, I absolutely love Tables and Tales. And to me, it's an extension of what I do online with Marbie's Kitchen. And it's an honor to be able to do it. And the tickets sell out, because each time I'm so nervous and people sell out the tickets so quickly. And usually we have people kind of asking, can we get more tickets? Can we get more tickets? So love Tables and Tales. And hopefully for the next one, I'm trying to make sure we can do 2 this year. So the first one we just did was in July. So the next one should be in October, November. But fingers and toes, all the things crossed. Keep those eyes peeled. On Instagram, it's called These Tables and Tales. And yeah, it's just bringing together tables where we get to sit, feast, eat, and tales, the lessons that we learn about our life experiences. Okay. Next question. Okay, someone said, nothing really. I just admire your drive and you as a person. So inspiring. Keep being you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Someone else said, what inspired you to start Marbie's Kitchen as a concept? So Marbie's Kitchen was actually an idea I had for about 4 or 5 years before I launched it. No, actually 6 years. I thought about it whilst I was still making wedding cakes. And I just, at the time, getting up and deciding to create content, it was still relatively new. And I knew I wanted to start out a space and a platform where we could have honest and open conversations. And I started out with a podcast and creating food content as well. But the real inspiration behind it was wanting to honor my mum's memory. I feel like when it comes to grief, we aren't always grief literate. And what people often try to encourage you to do to make sure you don't break is to hurry you up in your grief process. And for those of you who don't know, I lost my mum when I was 21. She had cancer for about 2 years, and then she passed away. And it was a really tough process to navigate, and it still is. And that's one of the lessons I've learned along the way, that, you know, grief is this ongoing cyclical thing, and it doesn't mean something is wrong with you if you are still grieving the loss of someone you loved deeply, and you're grieving the expectation you had that they would be in your life for a lot longer than they actually were, right? And even if they didn't get taken suddenly or quicker than you expected, you still grieve the loss of their presence in your life, right? And I felt like I just wanted to honor her memory in some way and be bold and outspoken about that to help other people who were working through grief as a process, to kind of let them know that you don't have to be hurried in the process. I know people have the best intentions at heart when they're saying, you know, she wouldn't want you to cry, she wouldn't want you to be upset. Like, it's ongoing. Sometimes the pain will feel as fresh 10 years on as it did in the first year. Sometimes you'll feel okay. Sometimes you'll feel like, okay, I'm strong enough to try and honor their memory in this way. And that's what I did. Around about the 5-year mark, I decided I wanted to honor my mum's memory and the love that we both had for hosting and entertaining. That was my memory growing up in Lagos. After church on a Sunday, it's like, whose house are we going to? Where are we feasting? It was so absurd to me to come to the UK and after church on a Sunday, everybody's hurrying to leave. Everybody's hurrying to go home and mind their business. And I get it. There are differences culturally that allow for maybe, from my perception anyway, more social engagement where, you know, back home where I'm from, it's like you have more house helps, depending on kind of your class, you have more house helps, nannies, cooks. So, you know, someone else is going to the market and maybe you're cooking the food or they're cooking the food. So yes, I understand there's a lot more that we kind of have to do in the West on our own, but it was still weird to me. It's like, where are we going after church on Sunday? How are we gathering? How are we feasting? And for me, the kitchen has always been this sacred space where I get to feed people. I get to cater to them. I get to cater to their most human basic need, right? But at the same time, I also receive a lot in the kitchen. I get to laugh with my friends in the kitchen. I have had moments where I laugh till I feel like I cannot breathe. And I love that being a memory I get to associate with the kitchen. That's why I love an open plan kitchen where my friends are around and I'm cooking and I'm prepping food, but I get to enjoy the conversations that are going on in the background. I love the fact that in the kitchen I've been comforted. I've received hugs whilst I've been breaking down crying, right? After trying to distract myself by like preparing a meal. I've had friends comfort me in the kitchen. So I wanted to kind of culminate all of those things online by sharing the fact that the kitchen is this sacred space where you get to share, you get to learn, you get to grow, you laugh with your family, you laugh with your friends, but you also get to cater to people's needs. And that's how Marbie's Kitchen was born, essentially bringing two things I love together, food, conversation, and this sacred space where it all happens. And I love that through Marbie's Kitchen online, I get to invite people into my kitchen virtually, and we learn, we laugh, we grow, we evolve, we comfort each other, we see that we're more alike than we are different, and we get to enjoy some good food as well. So it started out primarily with a podcast and food recipes, and I've kind of pivoted and evolved into focusing more on content around hosting and entertaining, some food recipes here and there because I had to give myself permission to pivot. I just didn't love the process of primarily focusing on food content alone. It's a lot of work. It costs some good money to be testing those recipes, cooking them, and then it's like, what am I going to do with all this food? But yeah, that's kind of how I started Marbie's Kitchen, and it's evolved and grown since then, and I absolutely love it. It's one of the great joys of my life, and I'm so thankful that I not only gave myself permission to start, but gave myself permission to pivot along the way. Okay, someone asked, can you describe a season that seemed confusing or purposeless at the time, but has led you to where you are now? There are so many seasons I can give as an example of that. So many seasons where I felt, especially as someone who has different interests, different skills, different talents, baking, cooking, hosting, marketing, branding, like all the things, creating content, sharing, teaching. So many points in life I felt like, where is this all leading to? And I don't have one set example that I can give in response to this question, but I've had so many seasons where it's felt like, one, I'm in a space or in a job where I would rather not be here. It doesn't make sense. Like, where is the character development here? Or feeling like everybody else has their life figured out but me. I've had so many seasons like that. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway in hindsight, like looking back at those seasons, is one, realizing that I don't need to have all the steps figured out to still move with purpose and intention where I am right now. I think sometimes the lie we tell ourselves is, I need to know what the roadmap is. all the way down the line before I can take some sort of action. But one thing that I've learned over and over again is do what you know now. Like, do the best you can with what you know and where you are right now. And don't buy into the lie that you can only take a step if you know exactly what you're going to do 20 yards down the line. Sometimes you just have to figure out the next best step where you are right now. And also letting go of this need to know how everything ties together. I think sometimes, especially when you're still getting to know yourself and uncover things about yourself, it's so easy, especially looking at other people's journeys when they're 3, 4, 5, 7 years deep, and feeling like you have to have as much clarity as they have had, or they seem to have right now. And it's understanding that you will only get more clarity the more you do. Things will get uncovered the more action you take. And I think there's so many seasons where it just felt like, why am I here? What am I doing? This doesn't make sense. Why is everybody else so much further along than I am? Why are things not working out the way I would want them to? And, you know, just if I could say anything to myself in, you know, back in those seasons, it would be to just remember that things will come together in time. You just have to do the best with what you can and what you know right now, right where you are. Someone asked, how do you know when it's time to post and build a brand or when it's time to learn and hide? So if you know anything about me, you know that I always say I believe in both and. I don't believe that life is as linear or as like mutually exclusive as we try to make it sometimes. Oftentimes you will be building a brand and you'll be learning and hiding. I don't even love the word hiding, but you'll be learning at the same time. And I feel like, yes, in some seasons, maybe especially when you're starting out, there is room to say to yourself, I'm going to focus on learning and not give myself the pressure of, you know, being on display or showing up right now. And I feel like the only caveat I would add to that is to say, give yourself a time limit for that. You won't learn everything you need to know in that time limit you've given yourself. But if you give yourself a time limit, it means that you don't then get to obsess over what you don't know or all the possible information that you can learn, especially for those of us who love to learn and love to overplan and kind of lean into perfectionism. Sometimes you can be like, no, I'm still learning, I'm still developing. And it's like, no, you're gonna learn more by the time you start to do. So it's finding that balance. It's knowing that, okay, maybe there's a season where I need to carve out time to learn, but set yourself a schedule. You know, you're not in primary school your whole life. You're not in year 6 your whole life. You eventually have to graduate. So give yourself a curriculum, give yourself a schedule, say 6 to 8 weeks, I'm learning, and then I'm gonna launch. The best thing that someone did for me when I was trying to launch Marbie's Kitchen was tell me, this is your deadline, this is the date that you have to launch. And yes, things happened, there was hiccups and I had to postpone the date, but it was so freeing to have a date and a deadline to work towards, because it left to me, I would have been obsessing over gathering more and more and more information. But that period of learning was useful because I did get to sit and learn about podcasting. I listened to podcasts about podcasting. I listened to things about branding, marketing, creating a brand that people would love and resonate with. So it's a balance. You have to find a healthy balance between the two. But also remember that most of the time, both will be happening at the same time. You'll be learning and you'll be building a brand at the same time. And people typically resonate with you sometimes even sharing the process of doing both, building a brand and learning. You don't need to showcase yourself as this perfect be-all and end-all authority in a particular space. Okay, someone asked, would you ever release your own hosting range, cookware, etc.? Yes, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I love enjoying things that I use in my home around hosting and cookware, and I would love to create something like that. You know, shout out to Martha Stewart, my home girl, you know, we're working on it. Another question, or a couple of questions people have asked that are the same. Will you write a book on hosting? Can you make a meal plan or ebook for different foods and menus for a different party? Another one, can you make an ebook course on how to host a dinner party, table settings and flowers? So through my content, I do share a lot about this, but I would want to kind of put something together that's very specific for this area. So keep those eyes peeled. I've heard the requests. I've seen, I can't ignore it anymore, okay? Someone asked, I need time to decide alone. I always need someone to validate. How do you do this? I feel like I said earlier, the gift of self-discovery is a gift that keeps on giving, but it's also a gift you have to continually give to yourself. One of the best things I feel like I've done for myself over the years is to learn how to sit with myself. And initially, to develop this as a practice, I had to carve out time every morning to meet with myself before I opened my phone, before I checked messages, before I heard anything from anybody else, just to make time to understand what I'm doing. Do I want to do it, or do I feel like I have to do it? Because it's so easy to start to live life on autopilot and do things because you feel like you have to do them, not because you genuinely want to do them. So for me, I would always encourage you to carve out time where you sit, ask yourself interesting questions. Also get into the habit of advocating for yourself. For those of us that go to the hair salon or to do our nails, it could be as simple as you don't like what's been done, advocate for yourself. You don't want to go to a particular place, say you don't want to go. Sometimes people will tell you, you know, you come across as selfish, da 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 da. No, it's culturally, people pleasing is so dominant that when you start to advocate for yourself, it will kind of seem like, well, who's this heifer? And why does she think she can? No, advocate for yourself. Yes, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. What's the middle ground? Like, yes, there will be compromise in certain situations, but so many of us do not advocate for ourselves. Even especially for me, recently, I'm learning more how to validate my own feelings, because sometimes I'd kind of need to call someone and be like, this person did this and da, 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 da. Am I okay to feel like this? And it shows, like someone told me, that I don't have enough self-trust. I don't know how to validate my own feelings to be like, okay, yeah, it's okay for me to feel like this. I don't need to always ask someone else if it's okay or seek permission for that. So I would say it takes time and it takes practice, but it's a skill you have to develop, and it will feel very uncomfortable at first, even sitting down with yourself. So many of us are just so used to only feeling validated through busyness. We're go, 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 or we're on autopilot. And it's like, sometimes carve out time for yourself, and not in a way where you're just numb. It's not just watching TV, because again, you don't really know what's going on in your own mind if you're just constantly watching other people express their own thoughts. Sometimes sit in silence for a bit. When you're walking, taking a walk, maybe you don't have something playing all the time. Maybe journal for 5 minutes. Ask yourself one interesting question a day. Ask yourself how you're feeling. But it takes practice. There is no magic pill for it. You have to learn how to spend time with yourself. Okay, next question. Hi, Marbie. My question is, what fonts do you use in your videos, please? I love the clear consistency. I, first of all, edit in InShot, but then I use fonts from Canva. I find whatever font I like, and then I create it as an image, and then I basically make it a clear background, almost like a PNG, like you would a logo with a transparent background, and then I put that over my videos. If you want me to share more about content creation, or anything specifically, let me know and I will try to make a video about that. Somebody said, what keeps you to not only stay motivated but disciplined? Okay, so in summary, and I love that I saw a video where someone shared about this recently, discipline is a muscle you have to build. I think almost everything in life would feel less frustrating if we understood it's something that's gradual and you have to develop it with time. There's areas that you're disciplined in where, you know, you thrive and discipline in that area, but maybe not so much in other areas. And I think it's just remembering that you have to develop that like you would develop anything else. For me, I've developed discipline in some areas, and I know I need to work on discipline in other areas, but you build that through self-trust. You build that through giving yourself evidence that you say something and you actually end up doing it, not you say and then like you break your promise to yourself. But discipline is gradual, and it's also understanding what the opposite of it would look like. For me, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to showing up online, I know what the opposite of that has felt like. I know when there's been times when I'd post once every 3 months and I'd be wondering, where are the results? Why is there no brand deals? Why is there no partnerships? But you can't be confused about the lack of results from the work that you didn't do, right? So for me, discipline is twofold. It's knowing that it's gradual and it's something I have to build, and I can always rebuild it. If I fall out of whack in terms of my routine when it comes to, let's say, content creation or my work, I know that I can step back up and redevelop that. But then it's also remembering that the opposite is just not worth it. Like, the fruit of the lack of discipline could be what you're living in. And if that makes you incredibly unhappy, then you have to do something to work towards changing that. The final question I'm going to answer, someone said, what are your go-to home fragrances? So I love a good home fragrance. I love the idea of scenting your home and people coming in, similar to how you would feel in a hotel when you go and it smells gorgeous. you just feel good. You feel better. It's a great experience all around. I love having that for my home. There's a few things that I love. So the first is this from Jo Malone. It's part of the Townhouse collection. Same with the candle from there. I love the Wild Berry and Bramble scent. My aunt introduced me to this. She's in America, but she loves Jo Malone. And I love the Townhouse collection more than the classic collection. I feel like I love the look of it. It's just a gorgeous vessel, but then the scent, the sticks, the throw on this is phenomenal. It fills your whole space. And the Wild Berry and Bramble, initially I didn't think I would love it, but absolutely phenomenal. Like when people come in, they're like, what is that scent? It's so good, so good. And I love the fact that it comes with a refill. So you get this vessel, you get the sticks, and then you also get this, which is the refill that you pour into it. And I love that you don't have to use it all in one go. Especially if you're someone who travels often, it's nice that everything doesn't have to be in the vessel and you can kind of fill it as you need. But absolutely phenomenal scent. The one thing I'm having to be mindful of is making sure I put it on a coaster because the liquid in it can be kind of corrosive to surfaces. So yeah, shout out to my aunt for introducing me to that scent. And then the candle, love the vessel. It's empty because I finished it, but I just love the way it looks. I think it's just gorgeous. And I love things that are functional, but also aid in the design of your overall space. Anyone who knows me knows I love rituals. Wild Fig is one of my favorite scents from their private collection. I love the room spray of this. It smells like richness. It smells like wealth. I remember being in a hotel, the Balcon, and in their bathroom, they had a scent and it had fig. And I think it was from Rituals by the time I asked at the front desk. And I think they've ended up discontinuing the original scent of that, but Wild Fig, love this. If someone has a car and I want to get them a gift, usually I'll get the car diffuser, the car air freshener. I love that it doesn't smell like a typical air freshener. Like it's just rich. It has such a good scent. I'm almost out of it, but I love this scent. It's got fig in it. It smells rich. In terms of the notes, I don't know all the notes. Let me see if I can pull those up. So on the notes, it says, it's got juicy ripe Italian fig mingled with Chinese orris and a fresh spicy clove accord. It's perfectly rounded off with creamy cocoa and Indian sandalwood nuances. Now, I love sandalwood. Honestly, it's just a fantastic scent. If you're in doubt, go in store, smell it. Absolutely love it. And I feel like it's a notch above. They have an oud one as well, but I feel like I get tired of the oud scent. There's certain scents that I just feel smell a bit too typical, and an example of that actually from the Jo Malone collection is the Velvet Rose and Oud and the English Pear and Freesia. I like them as scents. I prefer the Velvet Rose and Oud. It's kind of more, I love a rich, musky, deep scent. But the English Pear and Freesia to me just smells like, it smells like everywhere I've been. It's kind of like how I feel about Baccarat Rouge as a perfume. It's a gorgeous scent, but my space cannot smell like everywhere I've been, and my perfume can't smell like everyone I hug. So that's why I typically go for other scents like the Wild Berry and Bramble, gorgeous. But this is another scent that I love, Savage Garden from Rituals. It's also from their private collection. It's delicious. It's so good. It's a lot more zesty. It's a lot more fresh. I'll check the notes for you just now. Honestly, it's so good. It feels like a complex smell. I also love the green cardamom from Rituals, but Savage Garden has my heart every time. I can't even lie to you guys. The candle looks good as well, but my problem with the candle is I don't like the way the vessel looks. It's like, it's just, I don't know. I prefer a black candle in my space or a creamy candle, like a cream color, as opposed to this white. I just don't love it, for me personally. But the description for Savage Garden is green notes of vetiver, zesty lemon, and herbaceous clary sage. I don't know what all that means, okay? I don't. But I will tell you, it smells so good. Vetiver I find is a hard one to balance sometimes. Like if I was just to get vetiver as an oil, as an essential oil, I don't love it on its own. So I feel like anybody who can balance that along with other scents and leave you with something rich and delicious, they have my vote. So Savage Garden is a scent in my home that I absolutely love. And then sometimes when I'm out, let's say in Sainsbury's or other places, I just find room sprays that I like. I also like to have candles in my guest bathroom and my main bathroom, and just sometimes light them, especially in the winter. Absolutely love anything with kind of oud notes, but that are mixed in with something else, because I can't do oud just on its own. Anything with yuzu, sandalwood, tobacco, that's my kind of vibe for my home. But guys, that is it. Those are all the questions I've answered for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around to get to know me. I can't wait to share more on this channel. So please, if there are any videos, any topics, any things you want me to cover, please leave them down in the comment box below. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that Love Marbie as a YouTube channel is now live. And I didn't even get to talk about why it's called Love Marbie. I probably should have discussed this earlier, but Love Marbie is the name of my product line, but it's also the way I sign off every video that I share on Instagram typically, because everything feels like I'm sharing it with you, with love from me to you, if that makes sense. I love the idea of sharing ideas, things that I come up with, tips, life lessons. And just like I would if I was signing off a note to a friend, I would say Love Marbie. So everything that I share is with love from me to you. And I can't wait to share more on this channel. I can't wait for us to build a community of people who love all the things home, heart, and hosting. And guys, stay tuned because we go together now, okay? Hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I have a new video. And I can't wait to share more with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. We did it. We did it. We did it.